Let's Hope at Crafty Hope. Welcome! It is the beginning of week 18 of my hashtag Crafty Hope prompts. So it's time to make my Crafty Hopes prompt card. If you're new here, I'm going to explain that to you. If you're returning, welcome back. So my Crafty Hopes prompts, my hashtag Crafty Hope prompts is a challenge I came up with for myself. I started it back in October. That's how I'm on week 18. If you're just now finding me, feel free to start your own week 1. Go back to week 18, use those prompts, or just start now and go for it as you're inspired. But basically, I am using a regular deck of playing cards. So that's 52 regular cards. I do have a couple of jokers in here, and so there may be some bonus stuff later. I haven't quite decided what to do about that yet, but for now, I'm trying 3 prompts a week, using those prompts to alter my card front and back. And also then later in the week, I have a second project using those same 3 prompts. So it's not just an altered playing card that I'm doing with it. I have another project. Sometimes that's an art journal page like it was this past week. Sometimes it's a tag or an assemblage project, or I don't know. We'll see what comes. I've made some jewelry with these. I've done... What else have I done? It feels like, oh, I altered this can. I've done different things. So, but for the most part, it's probably going to be art journal, junk journal pages. I think I made a whole junk journal, maybe. I don't remember now. We're 17 weeks in. I'm already losing track. All right, guys. So it is time to draw some new prompts. We're going to get to it. If you have any questions about any of that, please ask away. You can contact me here or Instagram, or really the best place is Twitter is okay. But just, you know, let me know if you got questions. I'm going to draw my 3 prompts, and then I'm going to gather some things, and we're going to alter a card. So let's see. Prompt number 1 is... I feel like I need a drum roll. Okay, alcohol spray. Okay, guys, this may be something that not everybody has. It is something I made myself. I probably have a tutorial. I'll link that up here. I made it by putting spray bottles of alcohol, and I put the felt sticks that are inside markers inside, you know, a couple of those inside each of the bottles. That's all that is. You could use another kind of spray ink or an alcohol ink spray of some other kind if you have that. This is on my list because I don't use those sprays often enough, and this will hopefully get me to use some of those sprays. So like I said, it's a super simple project. If you just have alcohol ink and maybe a spray bottle of alcohol that you want to spray that, try maybe doing that. But when I have alcohol spray on here, this is what I mean. So that is that. Use any kind of spray you want that maybe you're neglecting. This is what I'm going to use, and you'll see in a bit. All right, prompt number 2 is hand carved stamp. Oof, combining those 2 is going to be weird. I'm going to do it though. I have lots of hand carved stamps. I use them. Again, that's something I have a tutorial for. I'll put, again, that up here. I use erasers and a speedball carving tool. If you don't have a hand carved stamp, make a stamp another way. There are lots of tutorials on taking sticky back foam and cutting it into shapes. You can also use like a foam and like press into it so you get an impression, or use just a stamp that you don't have, that you're not using. That, you know, again, these prompts are supposed to be to encourage you to use things you don't often use or that are in your stash gathering dust. So find something that's gathering dust, use that. Use a spray and a stamp that you haven't used in forever. You don't have to take these literally. Okay. All right, last prompt. Let's see. I'm going to dig deep for this one. Dig deep. And it is pattern. All right. So, for pattern, you can interpret that any way you want. I'm trying to remember what my intention was when I put that in there, and I have no idea. So my first initial thoughts for that are to create a pattern using a stamp or a stencil, or even just with a pen and doodle a pattern on. You can find a pattern like in a magazine of like a pattern that's on somebody's dress or something like that. You can do a sewing pattern, would be interesting. I think I might have put sewing pattern if that's what I meant, but if that's what you've got, use it. Pattern can be made any kind of way. So how that springs out at you, I want you to go for it. How it inspires you. Don't think about what I intended. These are for you to be inspired as well. All right, guys, I am going to grab my card here, and I'm going to get a paper clip so while I'm moving things around, I don't lose these. And I'm going to gather some things and be right back. I'm back. Oh, I just moved everything around, didn't I? I'm back with the things I have gathered. So for alcohol spray, I have this tin that I have with my homemade alcohol sprays in them. So I will pull 1 or 2 of these in when I'm ready. Probably towards the beginning just to get something going. But we'll see. That tends to be how I use it. For hand-carved stamp, I have 2 of these pencil cases with my hand-carved stamps. And look, y'all, I've made stamps with other things. This is fun foam stuck onto cardboard. Most of these, though, are my eraser stamps. So, yeah. And this is actually fun foam. I think, oh no, that's actually a carved eraser that wasn't very sturdy that I stuck onto some thick fun foam. So, make an eraser, you know. So I've got all of these that I can choose from, and this one's not a hard one for me. If you've seen other videos of mine, you know that I use them all the time. And look, y'all, I've lost the sticker, the prompt. Oh, I'm a mess today. I'm an absolute mess today. And then for pattern, that is probably the hardest one of these for me. I'm going to go ahead and put these together. Pattern's probably the hardest one because I can't remember what my initial intention was, and that's what I tend to go for. So I kind of just went with the idea of patterns. The first thing I grabbed were some scrapbook papers that have patterns on them. I don't particularly like this one, but I may use this one. We'll see. I was looking for something else, and I found this piece of scrap paper that I had put some excess coffee on here in a pattern. I think that I would consider a pattern, but it's also an idea to make a pattern on here as well. And then there's a piece of fabric with a pattern on it. So I will somehow, in some way, bring a pattern into this. We'll see. So I'm going to get started. This was a bit of a bumpy ride. I don't know if it's because the day was already so crazy or what. I like the card in the end, but I don't know that's the best thing I could have done with these 3 prompts, but I still have a project to do. So I did start with this piece of paper that's got that coffee marks on it. I thought I really liked those on there, but yeah, don't get too attached to them. I had to come to a realization with it about myself as well. I am using some matte gel medium to glue that paper down. I have to give it a second to really kind of get sticky, but I found it is the best thing for sticking things down. The Mod Podge does okay, but it still slides a little bit, so just have to take my time and be patient when I'm gluing it down. I do this because the cards are laminated. They have like a coating, and so things like paint won't stick to it. But if you don't want to start with a layer of collage, you can always start with some gesso or sand the card with a little bit of sandpaper. So those things will give it a bit more tooth so it'll stick. And you know, I really probably should do that before I stick my paper down in the first place, but whatever. So I've got that down and trying to get it flat. A couple of the edges tore a little bit, but I was trying to be okay with it. And I'm going to come straight in here, I think, with some of my alcohol sprays. I'm tapping my fingers thinking, and I grab some green. I'm going to spray it right on there a couple times. I'm going to say, okay, a little bit more. And then I'll grab a yellow thinking that might make some kind of turquoise. And it kind of does. But y'all watch as this moves around on the card and sits wet on the card. That coffee starts to absolutely disappear. So even when I dry this, there are some of those coffee marks, which is really pretty. I really kind of like it, and it's something I might play with later. But yeah, I really wish they had stayed a little bit more. So I wanted some scribbles on there, and I had to try a couple different kinds of pencils because I think that was still a bit damp and I didn't want to tear the paper. So I got some marks there. They're not going to matter because, yeah, I've decided, oh, I was trying to show you a look. I remembered to peel up my the plastic covering my little jelly plate, because last week I did not. I did much better this week. So I've put down some red paint. This is, I don't even know, a Martha Stewart. I just wanted something bright red on top of that kind of green and yellow. And I'm using this hand carved stamp I've got of a flower. And I'm going to start down on this bottom left corner. I wish I had gone off the card just a little bit more than I did, but I wasn't sure yet if that was going to be the focal or not. So it's not, because I've decided to make this my pattern on here, since my coffee pattern in that background really kind of wasn't there. So this is just layers of yum, and I'm working up the card and then back down it to make this pattern, and I'm going to cover the whole card with this, and I'm just using that jelly plate as a palette. If you had something else, a piece of plastic or a nonstick craft sheet or just something else, you could, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I had something that wasn't going to bleed. So I wanted the acrylic ink so it wouldn't fade the way the coffee did. But since I put acrylic paint on my stamp, I'm going to almost immediately try to get it off. I've got a baby wipe. I'm going to clean it a little bit and put it off to the side and let it soak on my stamp, because that will ruin one of your stamps. So I basically decided that that side with the flowers is going to be my, what I call my functional side that has my prompts. So I have flipped this over to work on the other side. And I'm going to grab just, this is large print text, or text from a large print book. I used it in my prompt project just this past other day, and I picked this book up on Thursday. So this has all kinds of, like, my last several videos have all involved parts of this book, which is fine. You know, use what you have. And again, I'm just gluing it down with my matte gel medium. And I'm going to be, I don't know, wasn't wanting to stick. So I was having to take my time and be a little patient and pat it and check it. And yeah, so I'm going to fold it again and tear it. I tend to have a little more luck with the tearing. If I cut, sometimes I cut the card. I told you I'm a mess. So I'm doing some of the tearing. And I'll come and I'm going to go ahead and cut these last little bits here. But I do decide, who was it? Was it Rose? Was it you that mentioned that you take your offcuts like this and layer it on your card to give it more texture, or on your work? And so that's, I was just going to throw that little scrap away, but I was like, no, that's such a good idea. I'm going to do that. So look at me. Instead of adding to my scrap pile, I am sticking that down. So thank you. Like I said, I think it was Rose, but if it was somebody else, I'm sorry, and I appreciate the tip, and let me know below, and I will try to remember to give you a better shout out later. All right, so instead of putting down something that would fade away for my pattern, I'm going to use some acrylic ink to start with. This is a yellow ochre. I love yellow ochre, y'all. And it's, I think, a folk art brand of yellow ochre, and I'm doing my finger dots just to make a pattern. See, you don't have to have any kind of fancy tools or supplies. Use a finger. If you don't like to get your finger messy, maybe use the eraser on a pencil or the back of a pencil, something like that you can put some dots down with, because basically all an eraser on a pencil is a stamp. Really. Anyway, so I am making my pattern on this side with just some finger dots. So, and I'm going to go ahead and dry this so nothing smears or anything. But you see, I'm trying to cover that whole card again with the pattern. So I'm going to think on this how I'm going to use the pattern for my prompt later. But this was a bit of play to see how different things layered. So to add to the pattern, I am going around each and every single one of these finger dots I made with my Stabilo all pencil in black. And instead of doing my messy like triple circles that I like to do, I'm just doing one, because there's not really enough room for more than that. But what I really wanted to see was if I spray my alcohol sprays on top of these, does that Stabilo move? And it kind of doesn't, because I'm not pushing it. I'm just going to spray this down. So I'm using brown, and with these that I've made, I always shake them first just to see if I can get a little extra color in there. Great. So I'm going to put brown down, decide I don't it's not enough color for me, so I'll add blue. And I'm gonna go and tell you that one of the things I really like about these alcohol sprays is they feel seamless. They're very like ethereal and floaty and pretty, and they blend so beautifully together. I don't know what it is. Like, they're still very transparent, but I don't know. There's something just mystical about them. So it makes me do want to use them more. As you can see, I've got a Sharpie paint pen, and I just added a single dot to the center of all of those circles. And I haven't brought in hand carved stamp yet on that side, so I decided to grab some India ink and one of my hand carved stamps. I know I've got that in the lid of a yogurt container. And I've got a little strip of fabric that I pulled out that I'm going to try to stamp on. It does not do great. I'm wondering if my Stays On would have done better than this India ink, but it's fine, whatever. It's all an experiment. This is just for me to play and test out my materials, and that's what I'm doing. So it didn't work out great, but I'm going to use it. I've got this great little strip of fabric. Why not? Why waste it? I'm sure I could grab another one because it is really just a trash piece of fabric, but it's okay. It fits beautifully on my card just the way I found it. So I'm putting the darker end on the bottom so it has that weight to it, but that was like the only decision I made about this. And so I grabbed that little bit of scrap of that book page that's still sitting there and immediately saw the words that didn't have stamping on it that said I challenged it. And I thought that's funny because this is supposed to be a challenge for me, and I think I'm challenging it because I'm making it a little bit harder than it needs to be. So I cut that down, and I will use my matte gel to both glue down my fabric and that little sentiment that I cut out, just because I know it'll be sturdier on that fabric. Like, I could probably use my glue stick, but I felt a little bit safer about putting that matte gel on that slip of paper. So, and y'all, that's that side done. I really kind of let myself have it easy since it has been such a crazy day, and I'm hoping I can come up with something a little more challenging next week. So I have cut down all of my prompts here for the other side. I cut that out so y'all didn't have to see it. And I'm going to use my Oohoo glue stick just to glue these down. And while I still have some of that India ink sitting there wet on my desk, I don't want to waste it. So I'm going to grab a paintbrush, and I'm going to admit I probably got too big of a paintbrush. I should have I stopped for a second and thought, no, maybe a different one. I was like, no, go ahead and use this one. But I'm going to pull that out, pull a flat paintbrush out, and then see, I stop and I go, well, maybe not, maybe not. Let me test it. No, that's okay. No, maybe not. Okay, I'm going for it. So I go for it, and I'm making borders around these, and I thought I was going to make 3 separate ones, but because that paintbrush is so thick, it's not going to go for it. It just, yeah, so it's a little wonky. I don't care. I really like this side a lot. So I will dry it because that ink is wet, but I'm going to come back in with a white Signo gel pen and just make another pattern and just do stripes around this border. And then I'll grab another pen and write an 18 in the upper corner so that I know that this was week 18. And that'll be it for this prompt card. Like I said, I don't think I challenged myself quite enough, even if this does say I challenged it. But I'd love to see what you do with either the prompts you pull for yourself or these 3 prompts of alcohol spray, hand carved stamp, and pattern. Use them the way that they inspire you. You do not have to use them the way I'm using them. See the words? Use them how your initial immediate thought how to use them. Do that. All right, and make sure to use that hashtag #CraftyHopePrompts so I can find what you have made. And tag me if you can. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming by and watching. Make sure to give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.